Okay, welcome back. We just finished talking about aggregate functions. So the next thing we're going to do is doing math in here. Okay, so for example, I want to do something like select, I don't know, quantity on hand minus quantity on order. That could be a positive. A lot of people put this in parentheses just so it's incredibly obvious that you're doing math. Quite frankly, the machine doesn't care, but you poor humans, you probably need this. You know, from inventory. And basically you're doing math, right? So whatever that number is, I got some positive numbers, I got some negative numbers. Okay, now here, I can mix an ordinary column. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, just to make sure that the math works, I'm going to actually put this in here like this. And grab this guy and put him in here so you can see the two things. So now I have three things. And I'm going to use the as over here. And I'm going to call it mine diff or something like that. Something I can tell what the difference between the two numbers are. So sure enough, the difference between 230 is 170. Yay! Okay, it worked. Not that I was really surprised. Okay, so doing math. I mean, you can do all sorts of strange things in here. You know, quantity times price. Okay, that'd be a good one. So if I go in here and say, you know, select order number, quantity times price as extended price from order item. Okay, so I'm using a column and then whatever the extended price is. So if they ordered three things that cost $100 a piece, all I did was just multiply the unit price times the quantity in the order, right? Kind of cool. Okay, so what are the rules? So use parentheses even though they're not technically required. These can be mixed in with ordinary columns like the order number column, and they can appear in the where clause. Okay, those pretty decent rules. So let's talk about the order of math operators. When you were in grade school, you probably learned something. I learned pin math. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Oh dear God, I can't imagine now. But anyway, it's parentheses, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. That's the order of math operators. So if I had 4 times 2 minus 1, it's the multiplication has to happen first and then the, right? Okay, so the order of the way SQL Server works, the big picture order, it does math things first, then it does comparison operators, then it does the logical operators, then it does the range operators. Okay, good. All right, so string expressions. You can actually go in and you remember how I did math here, right? Well, I'm going to add something to. So I'm going to go here and do SKU description from inventory. Okay, so make sure I didn't make any. Okay, cool. So for no particular reason, I'm going to mess with this and say SKU description plus hello. Okay? I mean, what does this actually mean? I don't know. I can't come up with a decent answer. So all I did was just tack on the word hello onto the end of the text, okay? So the little plus sign, the plus operator, there's also one called, there's trimming. An R trim will make blank spaces go away. And there's an L trim, and there's a few others. But, you know, typically plus sign is the ones we're going to be playing with. Okay, grouping. Now, I mentioned to you before, when you do one of those sum guys, okay? So let's go back to here. If I say I want SKU description, and then I want, I don't know, I want the sum of quantity on hand, right, from inventory, like that. Remember we talked about how this doesn't work, okay? Because I cannot combine these things together. So what if I really did want like almost as if it was sorted on the SKU description, kind of sort of. I want to group these guys together. Okay, so I want to know, for example, of the 4 warehouses we have, some of these are in the same warehouse, like the scuba tank yellow, okay, is in multiple warehouses. So I want to know what the quantity on hand is for each of these guys, okay? All right, so here's how you would do that. This is kind of a weird example, but just bear with me. So here's what I want is I want to know the warehouse, comma, sum of the quantity on hand, okay, from inventory, but I want to group it by the warehouse. In other words, now I want 5 answers, 1 row for every warehouse that exists. Okay? So now I'm going to use this brand new thing called group by. 2 words, group by. And I have to tell it I want to group by the warehouse. Okay. Oh man, it's not warehouse. What the heck is it called? Daggone it. Oh, it's warehouse ID. Okay, well, excuse me. All right, let's run it one more time. Oops, got me. Okay, so now I've got, I thought it was 5 of them. Oh well, show you what I know. Now I have 1 line of output per. So this is the sum of the quantity on hand. This is how many items are in each warehouse. Warehouse number 100 has that many items, and 200, 300, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? So the group by it will allow you to have an ordinary column, provided it's covered by the group by. Okay. Look, I really expect you guys to be using a cheat sheet to learn all this stuff, because this is an awful lot of stuff to absorb. I know that, okay? I'm just telling you, look at the cheat sheet whenever you have to do one of these things. Don't try to memorize it all. Just kind of get the concepts in your head and you'll be okay, I promise. Okay, so now ordinary columns can appear on the select, provided they're covered by a group by. All right, so I'm going to show you another one. So I'm going to do, select, not if I spell it that way, select department, and then the count. And I'm going to count on a SKU column as number of items from, I'm going to do catalog SKU 2021. Then I'm going to have to continue, right? I'm going to have to say group by department. If I didn't do the group by, it would have complained. So this is going to tell me, like last year's, there are 3 items in camping, 2 in climbing, and 4 in water sports. Okay. So here's the way I think about grouping. Ask yourself, how many lines of output are you expecting? If you're expecting 1 line, you don't need a group by. If you're expecting 1 for every single row, like if there's 100 rows in a table and I'm expecting 100 rows of output, I don't need a group by. But if I have 100 rows in the table and I'm expecting 10 rows of output, then I am going to need a group by. Okay, that's how you decide whether or not you need a group by, is how many rows of output. If it ain't 1 and it ain't the full, then you are going to be using it. Okay, there's one last command, and that is the having command. And the having command is kind of sort of similar. Okay, in this particular case, where I did this count, okay, I'm going to run this guy one more time. So what if I wanted to do only those things where the number of, whatever the heck this thing is, I can't read what it says, the number of items is greater than 2. So I want to filter it, but I can't filter it with a where clause because The where clause is going to filter things going into this thing. What I want to do is I want to filter the stuff coming out of this thing. All right, so it's a little confusing, but just bear with me. So I am not going to do a from. Instead, I'm going to do a having. Having, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to have to repeat this guy. Count SKU is greater than 2. So now, instead of getting 3 rows of data, I'm going to get, having, man, my spelling today. Okay, so now instead of getting 3 rows of data, I only got 2 rows of data. So wait a minute. What's the difference between a where clause and a having clause? It all has to do with when the filtering takes place. If you consider this thing as, I don't know, like a complex engine, okay, this thing we're looking at now, where clause is going to filter the amount of data going into this engine, and the having is going to filter the amount of stuff coming out of it. So if I want to filter on the sum, or on the count, or on the average, I'm going to have to use a having clause, okay? Because the where clause can't do that. The where clause can only look at real data, not generated data, right? This was generated on the fly, right? This count or sum or average or whatever the heck it is, right? Okay. Cool. Now, can I use an alias inside the having? In other words, if I did this and said as number of items, do I actually have to type all this stuff? Is it going to cut me some slack? What do you think here? If I can say number of items like this, what do you think? Is it going to be say, oh, well, I know what you meant. Wouldn't that be nice? But no, you actually have to literally repeat this thing, which is kind of annoying, but it does work. Okay, one more time. Now we've got all of the statements, so we need to figure out a way to remember what the order of the statements are. Okay, here's how it works. There's a really cool mnemonic. That's a cool word by itself. What is a mnemonic? A mnemonic is a memory device, something that allows you to memorize, not memorize, but learn something without having to memorize it. So the way I learned it was, sweaty feet will generate horrible odors. That is actually pretty cool. So, sweaty feet will generate horrible odors. So in our world, that's becomes select from where group by having order by. So that's just a really cool way of remembering the order in which the statements come. I actually use this because sometimes I'll be in the middle of doing something and I'll go, no, wait a minute, does the group guy become before or after the from? And so this way I don't have to memorize it. It's a cool way of just kind of learning it through a mnemonic. Okay, now we're at the breaking point for Chapter 2. We're not actually done with Chapter 2, but this part of it is all about the select statement using a single table. The next section is a little bit more complicated because we're using multiple tables. But I wanted to give you a break, give you an opportunity for your brain to cool off before you tackle that second section. So get this part straight in your head before you take on the next one. Okay, see you in the next video.